inflation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Racing Lanes podcast. I'm your host, Rico Muhammad. My good friend right above me there is Mr. Chuck Snow. If you guys would do us a huge favor, if you would please like, share, and subscribe to the show. It helps us out tremendously, helps get us out to a broader audience. Format is kind of changed up a little bit, so we're trying to format properly so that we can stream on Instagram and YouTube. So that's why we kind of got the portrait view is what they call this instead of the landscape view. So, but other than that, there's nothing else that really has changed other than we welcome your feedback. We welcome your input. So please make sure you like, share, and comment. This show is pre-recorded, so we're going to be giving you some information that may be a couple of days early, but hopefully it will still apply by the time this show airs. And with that being said, good evening, Chuck. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great, Rico. I'm actually really excited because I'm in a couple of days. I'm leaving to go down to Louisville to Matt's, the greatest truck show of them all. So I'm going to be there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I hope to see a lot of our listeners there. Certainly have a lot of friends we've made through the years down there.
Absolutely, yes, it's that time of year, and it is strange. We are living in interesting times, I tell you.
Yeah, I think.
And I'm not even going to get into the whole political landscape and all that stuff. We got enough stuff to deal with right here in trucking to leave all that political stuff to those talking heads.
Yeah, but, I agree.
You know, on the trucking front, I tell you, it has been. This has been a wonky, crazy week. Past 2 weeks, really, with the whole conflict and everything, and the absolute surge in fuel prices. So it might be a good time for people that may be looking to take a break, to take a couple of days off and go hang out up in Louisville.
Why not? Exactly. You won't lose any money. Because, I was talking to my son about it. We were having dinner tonight, and here's the thing: a guy leaves the East Coast with, and he's heading west. He's got a guaranteed price. Fuel jumps up. That eats right into his or her bottom line.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that we talked about last week. And I was recommending some people, if you have your costs down, maybe take your costs, if you got it in a spreadsheet, and upload that bad boy into an AI, whether it be Google, ChatGPT, or any of that stuff. Upload your numbers into AI and ask it to kind of calculate to make sure that you're charging, make sure that you know what your drop dead price is, to kind of keep yourself profitable while these fuel prices are going crazy high. I was actually kind of surprised, Chuck, when my numbers came back, because it told me that I needed to adjust my pricing. I needed to go up about a quarter, about 25 cents per mile on my rate to kind of adjust for the fuel pricing, according to my fuel consumption and everything with my actual numbers.
Right.
So, I thought initially, I was like, man, fuel went up over $1 during that whole week, and I was just adding a whole $1 to the.
No, because you know what, your truck's probably you've got a Freightliner. You're probably getting around. I'm going to guess you probably average about 7 miles per gallon. Am I right?
I'm a little bit. I'm fighting right around in that area, but if I'm really light and if I watch what I'm doing, I can get 7. And that's one of the struggles that like I talked with you before. One of the conundrums is, I think that next year I'm kind of in the valley of decision on whether or not I'm going to get ready to either rebuild this truck or I'm going to sell it and get ready to buy me another truck. And I'm leaning more and more towards buying a newer truck.
I think you're smart. I ran into something this week with a former employee of mine who was talking to me about one of the owner operators at Traffics, and who was talking about rebuilding a truck like yours. And I said, it's going to cost around $45,000 Canadian to rebuild the engine. And I said to him, I said, don't tell him not to do it. It's insane. And he made the right choice. He's not going to spend $45,000 on a $15,000 truck. That doesn't make any sense. He's going to another plan. But I think given some of the technology that some of the manufacturers are coming out with, even though it's a lot of money, new trucks, because they get such incredible fuel mileage, may be worthwhile looking at if the warranty's good.
And I'm on the bench too, debating whether or not if I should just sell this truck outright and maybe look into doing a rider full maintenance lease, where the maintenance and everything, I don't even have to worry about the maintenance anymore. Just I know it's going to probably cost me a little bit more, but at least that'll be one less thing I have to worry about on the weekends. When I come home, I can go park it at Ryder and let them do what they need to do with it, and
Rico,
go from there.
I want to share something with you and our audience. I'm not bragging, but I'm one of the pioneers of doing that. I was doing that in 1978. And actually, I was doing a little bit even before, but not full time with rental trucks. And you know what? To me, it made sense. Now, the only problem was when I was doing it, I never gained equity in equipment. But the world is different, and I don't know if it's even a smart thing for a small carrier to even look at that anymore. With what the nightmares everybody is going through with truck maintenance, and even if you have the greatest warranty in the entire world, when you have a sensor go or something, and they're going to cover it, the OEM's going to cover it, but your truck sits at the dealership for 3 days until they look at it.
Let's put a pin in that for just a second, Chuck. I'm going to circle back around because I want to unpack this a little bit. I don't think we really hadn't talked about this live on the show, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to discuss the fuel prices with everybody, to let everyone know where we stand as far as the average price of diesel fuel as for this week. And so we are sitting at an average U.S. price of $4.86 per gallon right now, nationally for diesel fuel. That is 96 cents higher than it was the previous week.
Wow.
So that's where we're sitting at on fuel. Right now for the national spot market rates, according to DAT, we are looking at dry van rates showing an average spot market rate of $2.46 per mile. That is 2 cents higher than it was last week. We're showing that flatbeds are checking in at $2.99 per mile on average. It's 5 cents higher than it was from last week. And reefers are checking in at $2.88 per mile. That is 3 cents higher than it was from last week. And that kind of puts a bow on where we stand as far as how much the average price of diesel is and what we're looking at as far as on the average price on the spot market. Now, circling back around, unless you got a comment about that, I'm going to circle back around to leasing the truck.
No, you know what? Rates have gone up a little bit, but not enough to cover the extra fuel.
Right. And that's why you got to understand, you got to know what your cost per mile is. You got to understand, you got to be intimately, this now more than ever, when we have these types of fluctuations, now it's more critical than ever to make sure that you are calculating and that you are staying on top of your cost per mile. And if you don't have that, it's easier than ever now, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure that you are keeping up with your cost per mile. There are apps out there. You just plug your numbers in, sit down and take the time, take 30 minutes out of your day to sit down and do that and just kind of stay intimately involved with those numbers so that you can kind of make sure that you are staying profitable. This is the key component to making sure that you're staying profitable. You can't just go off of, I've been kind of indulging a little bit, going down the YouTube rabbit hole. I've just been wanting to see how other owner operators have been, how they're performing. And I'm seeing a lot of people talking about how they're ready to quit, how they're ready to just, they could sell the truck. And I understand the fatigue from getting our asses kicked for the past three and a half years with the freight downturn. I understand the frustration. At some point I was in the same boat.
Yep, I remember that.
But I will say this, you know, if you're in this thing and if you're not on top of it, it can become a little bit more of a bear and a monster, because you just really don't know what you don't know. And being able to see the numbers and for the numbers to make sense and for you to be able to calculate and make sure that you're pricing yourself, even if you're going to be competitive, you know, price competitively, you still need to know where your bottom line is so that you know that you still can make money. And even with the fuel prices as high as they are right now, money is still able to be made. Whether or not, you know, right now you got to make sure that you're trying to operating as fuel efficiently as you possibly can. As we are recording this, I am coming to you guys live from, I'm in Florida. I'm in the truck right now as we speak. I'm not idling. I don't have an APU on this truck, but I'm not idling. Right. So you may hear a little bit of background noise or something like that. I got the little fuel window savers in the windows with the windows down, but I'm not idling, and it's comfortable enough in this truck right now to where, I mean, it's. Let's see, I'm gonna tell you, it's 73 degrees right now.
Very comfortable.
And you know, you strip down a little bit. Hey, you're in the truck, you strip down a little bit and get yourself comfortable. You're good to go. You can make some things, you know, you can be comfortable. Now, if it gets a little warmer than that, you know, you might have to idle a little bit to cool it off, but that don't mean you idle all night long. But you got to be smart, and if you do have an APU or some other way resource to be able to keep yourself climate controlled without idling, that's the best possible thing. But right now, fuel preservation and fuel consumption is the key. Is the key to staying.
Remember Ted from
Yes,
Elite Carriers?
Absolutely.
Well, when Ted is a great operator, and when Ted was running the truck himself, I remember he knew his costs like he was one of the few, and for a young guy, he really did well. And I remember Ted had put an like a household air conditioner in his truck with a small generator.
Right.
It's a hell of a lot cheaper than a tank of diesel fuel.
Well, they even now have, I've seen on Amazon, you can go on Amazon. They have these, matter of fact, let's see if I can pull it up real quickly. They have battery operated APUs that you can get on Amazon. Now, you might have to find, you know, whether or not how industrious you are, or if you can find someone to put them in, but they're like $400.
My God, man, you know, you don't buy much fuel for $400. I almost put that in my SUV.
So with that being said, you know, fuel consumption, and that's the reason why I was, you know, we was talking about fuel consumption and everything. And that's one of the reasons why I'm thinking about doing the, as I'm approaching, getting ready to start approaching more customers for direct customers. And I'm thinking about doing the full service maintenance lease with Ryder. And the reason that I'm thinking about doing that is is another kind of a moat, if you will, for the business. It gives me an opportunity to when I can tell my customers is that, hey, even if a truck breaks down, I got Ryder standing behind me. So if this truck breaks down, I'm going to always be able to deliver the load. I'll be able to, you know, they're going to bring me a truck. I'll get this one up and running. And it won't be a major interruption in services.
That's
so
true.
I thought that would be a great selling point to be able to add as far as one of the value added service that I can add to potential customers in the future.
100%. I've done business with all of them, the big three. I've done business with a lot of business with Ryder, and I did at one time. I did a ton of business with Penske. At the time, they were a great partner for leasing, and I was actually up in Canada. I was PacLease's first customer when they opened up. And the three companies are good. You know, Ryder and Penske have a little bit more coverage because they're just so large. They're massive.
Right.
The one thing I want to say is that if you go into a full service maintenance, lease with them, you can kind of spec a truck for a whole lot less money than you could if you go to the OEM yourself. Because remember, these companies are buying, like, I'm just going to use Ryder for an example. They're going out and they're buying literally thousands of trucks. So they're getting a truck a whole lot cheaper than you and I could get a truck because they're buying 1,000 trucks.
I'm gonna definitely reach back out to Ryder. I had a call in with them last week, and I didn't get a chance to really go through everything but I'm going to ask them about being able to spec a truck out in versus what they may have. I'm kind of weighing all of the different options to see which way I might come out ahead, and as far as pricing is concerned. But definitely, I want to. And this is a thing that we're talking about doing this full maintenance lease. This is another thing that you can do with your cost per mile spreadsheet, ladies and gentlemen. You can kind of get numbers and do projections, and you can actually do projections and you can do actuals. Yes. So that way that you know what you put your projections in on one spreadsheet, and then you can transfer those projections over to what the actual numbers are on a month-to-month, week-to-week basis.
Rico, I got to tell you, what I did find with dealing with any of them is at the first of the month, you know exactly what your costs are going to be, other than fuel, because that's a wild card right now.
Right.
Okay. But other than fuel, unless something catastrophic happens, like, a blowout on a front tire, you pay for it. But from what we didn't have any issue with that, touch wood. I don't remember any, but we had other things. I remember one of my drivers hitting chicken wire on the highway, and that ripped wires and lines out and everything. That was a mess. That was thousands that we weren't expecting. But my CFO loved it because he knew what the cost was for every single truck for the whole month.
Right. And one of the things I'm thinking about, like I said, as a hedge to, and as a value add service, that, like I say, by being a small carrier, that is a concern with if your truck goes down, if you have got customers' freight on there, that can be a real concern. So I thought about that's one of the ways I was thinking about trying to overcome some objections when I start to approach different customers as well, which is one of the reasons why I've been looking into that.
Well, you know what? It's great if you're hauling something where, produce, of course, but even plant or flowers, shorter distances, air freight, shorter distances, because they want to know if you're hauling flowers or air freight, it's got to meet schedules.
Right.
And that's where, these guys do an incredible job. Why do you think all the big companies go to Ryder?
Yeah.
That's why Ryder's in business. That's why Penske's in business. Why PacLease is in business. Ideal Lease. There's a bunch of them, but I think the two big ones, of course, the smaller ones have all been taken out of the box by the big guys.
Yes, and ladies and gentlemen, if I haven't, I don't know if I failed to mention, I hadn't mentioned it probably in quite some time. If you're a smaller operator and you're out here operating, you definitely need to make sure that you have some type of fuel purchasing program, a fuel card of some type where you can make sure that you're getting nice discounts at the pump. Shameless plug, I'm a member of NASTC, National Association of Small Trucking Companies, out of Gallatin, Tennessee. I think it's about $250 to join. Their fuel program is probably one of the best in the country. I know with major truck stops such as TA and Petros mainly, their program is basically a cost plus 3, so that you're paying about whatever it costs the truck stop plus 3 cents.
Yeah.
So so at some places that's as much as 30 to 35, sometimes 40 cents off of the retail price.
Yeah, and the reason is because they buy so much fuel. They're an aggregator, and they're I believe they're the second or third largest seller of diesel fuel in the United States.
Right, and that's no small thing, and that definitely, trust me, I'm still noticing my fuel bill go up, but it's a hell of a lot better to have that discount than to not have it. I'll tell you that.
100%. The only thing I've ever seen really better than that was years ago, we were on a program called Tank Share, where you would buy a whole tractor trailer load of a tanker full of diesel fuel. And you could draw it out of this one truck stop. They had about 5 locations in Canada, and you could take it out of any of the locations. And luckily, they had one by the border where our guys would top up going out and they would top up coming home. And that worked until they closed up. But I would have to say Nastic is one of the better ones that's left.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I say, you're pretty much locked in at all TA Petros. They have, and if you are a member of Nastic, they have an app. The app is great. You download the app on your phone. It has a route planner on the app so that you can plug your route in on your app, and it'll tell you pick your destination, your pickup city and your destination city, and it'll give you all of the in-network truck stops on the route, and it'll show you prices. It'll show you all of the prices along the route, so you can pick out which one is the best one where you need to be fueling and things of that nature. And the other thing is you get a, like I say, this is an unsolicited plug for those guys. But they also send you every day. They'll email you by about noon to let you know whether or not the price of diesel is going up or down. So you'll know the day before if you need fuel, just get a little bit to hold off if the price is going down, or if it's going up, go ahead and fill up before the price changes.
Yeah, I don't see prices going down in any way. There'll be the odd blip, odd day where it'll go down, but I think it's almost a safe bet. Every morning when you wake up and shower, fill up. You know what? I think you're err on the side of caution.
And if you can, it's always best just to, you said wake up in the morning. If you're doing it in the morning, do it first thing in the morning while it's still cool. Don't wait till the heat of the day, because you get less diesel when you.
That's right. Yeah, you don't want to be filling up when it's 90 degrees if you can help it, unless you're in Phoenix in the middle of the summer. You don't have much of a choice.
Exactly. And right now, it's slow. And one thing I've also noticed, I've noticed that a lot of people here lately, Chuck, a lot of people are slowing down.
Yes.
Even the large cars, I'm seeing. I'm not getting the doors blown off as bad as I used to. I'm seeing a lot of people are starting to slow down. So a lot of people are realizing that the harder they mash on that with that right foot there, the more money is going out that stack.
Yeah, but you know what? There are some trucks where there's their sweet spot maybe 67 miles an hour, and there's other ones where you need to drive it at 55. Especially, I've met some guys with long-nosed Pete's that insisted on driving those old long-nosed Pete's that got 5 miles per gallon, and they could get 6 at, some of them at 55 miles an hour, and that was the only way they could stay in business. So they loved that truck so much they drove at 55 miles an hour. Never got into 13th gear at a 12.
Well, that's and kind of circling back to the whole leasing thing. I'm anticipating, which is why I'm entertaining it, because they're saying right now the fuel on these newer trucks, they're saying that I'm hearing reports of people in the 8s, 9s, and even 10s. And if I can get 8 to 9 miles to the gallon with a newer truck, hell, the fuel savings alone will make the payment.
Exactly. One of our listeners was telling me that he was running those the newer Internationals with the
S13.
Yeah, that Scania engine, and he was running coast to coast, doing partial loads, and he was getting close to 10 miles per gallon.
So I've heard, Chuck, that S13 is kind of a knockoff of the Volvo D13.
I don't know if it is. Then they've made improvements. I had some D13s. I was not crazy about them, but part of that was where they were running was the guy that was managing it. So I'm not going to put all the blame on the truck. But at the time, it was many years ago. It was about 10 years ago, and we had problems getting service where the trucks were domiciled out of Alberta, because the oil patch was just booming. and every time Volvo would hire a mechanic, they would get taken by the oil patch. Things were so crazy. I couldn't keep. It took me 1 year to put 10 drivers and 10 trucks steady.
Jeez.
Every time I would get a guy, he'd be offered twice or three times as much money working on the oil patch. And a lot of times it was on private property where these guys could actually work 24 hours a day if they wanted to.
Right.
They're on private property. They may have sat at a drilling rig for 12 hours waiting for something to happen.
Right.
So it's a different. But I don't care what, listen, if it's the Volvo engine that somebody took the design from and improved it, and because we never got anywhere near 10 miles per gallon. We didn't do that bad. I think they were averaging about 7, but now 10. That's a lot of money when you're talking fuel at $5 and change a gallon.
Yeah, and like I said, and that's the other thing that kind of scared me because, with the newer trucks, I am still seeing and hearing people complaining about the whole thing with the codes and everything, and they still having the downtime and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that I said, well, if I buy a new truck, how do I want to deal with that? And that's why I'm kind of leaning more and more towards maybe doing the full service lease, because that way that's one that I can kind of rule that whole thing out of the equation.
I haven't met anybody with a newer truck that has, and I don't care what make, they all have sensor issues. I had one when we first got into this with the newer technology in 2008, actually, which was, if you remember, the worst year in the history of diesel engines. They were horrible.
Yes.
And we had leased it was a Peterbilt or Kenworth from Pack Lease, and it had the PACCAR engine. The thing ran flawlessly. And a friend of mine called me one day, he says, "How's that PACCAR engine?" I said, "It's unbelievable." And he bought one in a Kenworth, and the damn thing went on in the shop after every trip. So I felt awful, but that was it. After that, I heard about his plight, and I thought I just got lucky.
Right. Man, I'm just looking at this. Here's a funny tweet.
Go ahead, share it with us.
TQL reported approximate revenues for the past 3 years during the freight recession. So in 2020, $4.1 billion.
Whoa.
For 2021, $7.9 billion. For 2022, $8.9 billion. They would ultimately go on to name one of the most viral chameleon carriers, Tutash Express, Carrier of the Year. This chameleon carrier network has responsibility for recent head-on collisions in Indiana that killed 4 innocent Americans, leading to an immediate shutdown by the new leadership at the FMCSA. This is one of the things. This is the crux, if you will, of the case that's before the Supreme Court right now. I understand the thing about as far as the broker liability is concerned, but this kind of goes to my whole thing of you can't have it both ways. You can't know that you're hiring people that are doing things illegally and making it difficult, making it a very difficult environment, and have ultimately been responsible for a lot of people going out of business because they didn't give a damn about how they operated. And in some broker circles, there were a lot of people going around with there was a meme going around called Strong Solo Sergey, and these broker and a lot of these broker very popular on LinkedIn, very popular on X, very popular on Reddit. A lot of brokers were talking about how they were getting excellent service from these carriers that were willing to do 1,000-mile next day deliveries for pennies on the dollar. But now, like I said, they also have C.H. Robinson for the same 3 years. 2020 revenues $16.2 billion. 2021 $23.1 billion. 2022 $24.7 billion. Would go on to name Super Ego Carrier of the Year when they did not even have an MC number and are known for being the whale of the Chameleon Carrier Network.
Wow, I am shocked because CH, I've known those guys for decades, and as far as I know, they've always run a fairly tight ship. So I'm really surprised.
So they go on to name another large brokerage, Arrive Logistics. They're giving out these numbers, and they're kind of connecting the dots. And this is kind of the thing. This is the crux of the matter, as far as I see it. I was not a real big proponent of initially with the whole thing, as far as, but initially, as far as the brokers being held liable. But when you got this going on, and when they were not oblivious to what they were doing, there has to be some accountability on this thing. Whereas you can't sit around and claim plausible deniability. Hey, my hands are clean. I understand a lot of this falls on the carrier, but there's some responsibility that lies there, because you were not complicit.
Yeah, you know what? I can't argue with that. The only thing I can say, if we had a proper auditing system, which is not it's not as difficult as people think it is. Very easy with desktop audits, and of course, you're not going to desktop audit somebody with 6,000 trucks. That's impossible. For
right.
1 to 50 trucks, you could desktop audit anybody.
Absolutely.
Between AI and all the other technology that we've been blessed with, it's not an impossible task.
But I just wanted to finish this point real quick, Chuck. I just found doing the greatest one, probably the greatest freight recession that we've ever seen, at least in my time in business, between those years, and what all has happened, and most of these people are reporting record profits. That doesn't really sit well with me.
No, I don't care how much profit they make. They're entitled to make whatever they want, but do it honestly. Have proper procedures. Do things right.
Exactly.
Make $1 billion
I'm not into counting another person's money, but at the same time, it felt like, for most carriers, for most guys trying to do things on the up and up in the right way, and they talk, and I've heard people talk about most trucks on the road are not fit to be on the road. Well, hell, if you can't, it's at the rates that they were pushing on us, and now they're starting to complain about the rates being, now that we're starting to get some, and on the next show, I'm going to bring up the data from all of the people that have been put out of service. The numbers are actually kind of, it's definitely having an effect. We were starting to see, and I personally, anecdotally, was starting to see an effect in rates back in October when they very first started. I started seeing incremental, but I'm definitely since things have kind of kicked into high gear, definitely are seeing rates kind of get back to what a normal operating environment where we should expect to see rates at. But for these past 3.5 years, as a small carrier, most of us kind of felt like a one-legged man in an ass kicking contest, just to put it.
It's true, because and part of it was there were so many people in this business that didn't have any clue as to what they were doing, so they would haul freight for $1 a mile.
Yeah, and when you got people that don't hold any responsibility, okay, you get him jammed up by the DOT or whatever, we can just move it, it's mind blowing. And I actually took some pictures. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna got an announcement, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna show it to you in just a second. But I actually took some pictures of some trucks. I've never seen here lately. You ride around and you see so many damn DOT numbers that taped over. I've seen people riding down the road with 2 and 3 DOT numbers, which is illegal as hell. This whole issue and problem we got to get our arms wrapped around this thing. And my little announcement, I'm looking at the time, we're pushing up against it. But I'm gonna start posting a lot more content. At least I'm gonna be trying to make a more conscious effort. And I bought a little tool to help me out with that. I bought some Meta glasses, ladies and gentlemen. I got some new prescriptions in, and they came in this week. And I've been kind of testing them out a little bit. Y'all tell me what y'all think. Y'all give me a thumbs up or whatever. I got some Meta glasses now. I can take pictures. I can record videos. So I think what I might do, I'm going to be running some spot a little bit this week. So what I might do, I might even go live and show some negotiations while we're doing some
why not
looking for some rates and seeing what we're doing, and just have a moment of transparency. So let everybody kind of have a look in as to what my operation, how everything looks on my end. Also going to make sure, I'm going to try to put together maybe some flashcards or something to that nature to maybe help out some people, to make sure that you're asking the proper questions when you're negotiating, especially if you're operating on the spot market. You want, make sure that you're asking the questions about detention and layover and so on and so forth, and making sure, because you're not able to change contracts now, especially if you're dealing on the spot market. But make sure you ask those questions and get something kind of written in verbally on the rate confirmation, or not verbally, but get it written in on the rate confirmation, the things that you discuss, so that you have some type of way of recourse if you happen to run into any type of issues.
Yeah, because we have to start getting paid for what we do.
Absolutely.
We have to stop taking all this risk for no money.
Absolutely. Your time is valuable. Your time is worth something. And like I said, not being one to try to count anybody else's money. Good kudos to those guys having record profits and things of that nature. But we have to make sure that we deserve the transportation industry that we got. And if we are going to be any better, and I took some pictures a little earlier, holding us truckers responsible. This is some of the pictures that I took. I'm leaving from a Walmart distribution, and you wonder why people don't want you to park on their property. And I'm seeing old tires thrown out on the side of the road, things of that nature. Guys, we got to stop this. We got to stop that. We absolutely go ahead and pay the disposal fee. If you got a tire that you stop riding around with old busted tires that ain't no good, pay to properly dispose of the tires. Somebody eventually is going to have to eat the cost of getting rid of that tire properly. Don't be going around out here throwing your trash down and everything else. This is one of the reasons why people don't want to let you use, and you can blame this on whoever you want to blame it on, because people we love to look for somebody else to blame. You can blame it on the foreign drivers, you can blame it on everything else, but as an industry as a whole, we got to clean this thing up.
100,000%. Somebody posted a picture this week on social media of a brand new truck stop. I think it was a Sheetz in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful spot, and it's a year old. And Rico, it looked like a landfill dump. You should see the garbage people leave. And I made a comment, well, maybe there's no garbage cans. There were. So there's no reason. Okay. And even if there aren't any garbage cans, you can always find a place to dump your garbage bag. I know in the car or the truck, I always have a bag, and I put, I drink a lot of Spindrift water. And when I finish, I put it in the garbage bag, and then I just throw the bag in the garbage. In a garbage dumpster or something. I don't litter. There's no reason to throw garbage out.
Absolutely no reason to do it. No reason to do it.
What the heck is with that all over the place? It's unbelievable.
And we were talking one thing before we get out of here: parking. Lord have mercy. We gotta get some type of something has to give on this parking front. I understand with capacity starting to drop, things should be becoming a little bit better. However, even with the capacity dropping, and I'm down here, I'm in Florida. I've been to 2 or 3 different truck stops over the weekend. Normally, weekend truck stops are kind of got you running. You kind of got the place to yourself. Out in Florida, you don't.
Yeah. Well, a lot of guys, a lot of people unloaded on Friday and Saturday and didn't get a load back, and they're going to do their reset in Florida and then be empty for Monday morning and be available Monday morning to load. So, yeah. But, I was thinking about it after we spoke earlier today, and I think parking is one of those things that, having grown up in this industry since I was a much, much younger man, we took free parking for granted. I think it's gone the way of the dodo bird. I think we can all expect to pay for parking as of now. It's just the only way you're going to guarantee a spot.
It's another business expense, pretty much. It's pretty much something that you're going to have to. We were talking about your cost per mile spreadsheet. That might be a new line item that you might need to start adding in to account for on your cost per mile, and make sure that you're putting it in your rate.
Because it is your cost. And I don't think it's wise or safe to count on free parking. I think it's just going away. And that thing the other day that I saw on Sheetz Truck Stop, that's one of the reasons. They have to hire somebody now to pick up all that garbage.
Yeah, it's you're starting to see a few different places, different parking clubs and things of that nature. Yeah. And kudos to them. But yeah, we got to do a better job. The places that do allow us to park there overnight or whatever, we have to protect. We have to protect those places and make sure that we're doing right. Just doing being a decent human being. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day,
we have to protect those places because we have to protect ourselves, so we have a place to park.
Absolutely.
So it's self-preservation, man. When you go and throw pee bottles and garbage in somebody's lot, next time you go to park there, they're not going to let you in.
Right.
It's real easy.
Right. And I mean, look, we all know you've been trucking. Whatever you got to do while you're on the road. So if you got your pee bottles or whatever else, just properly dispose of it, guys. Don't nobody wants to. Come on, imagine if that was your job. Yeah. You wouldn't want to go pick up somebody else's piss out of the parking lot. No. I mean, so don't put that on somebody else to do. I mean, just really.
I'm a lot old, Rico. I'm a lot older than you, and probably 95% of our listeners. And I can tell you that what comes around goes around.
Absolutely.
Karma.
Absolutely.
It's a bitch.
Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's probably a wrap for this week's show. Like I said, I'm going to try to work on getting those statistical numbers for us available for next week to see the amount of, I've seen some stuff, I've seen some data, even with the amount of, we're starting to see new carriers come back into the, new entrants come back into the business. But even with the amount of new entrants that have come back in, it's still being offset by a good amount by the people that had to leave and people that closed down. Yeah. So I think that we're starting to see from everything that we're seeing that this is not just a supply situation. Demand is also helping drive these rates. So it's not a blip on the screen. I think that we're starting to finally see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. However, things are still, we're still on shaky ground. I'm not saying we're on solid footing just yet. We're still on shaky ground. We still got some ground to cover, but hang on, hold on, watch your costs, try to stay as profitable as you can, reduce your costs where you can. And hopefully you guys can continue to be able to put away a little hay in the barn.
100%. I just want to leave our listeners with a thought here. I remember being in a business deal with an older gentleman, and he gave me some great advice. Never get into a contract or a deal without an exit clause. He said it's like going into a crowded dance hall in the Philippines. Before you get in, look for the exit.
Sage advice indeed. Sage advice indeed. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we want you guys to continue to stay safe out there, stay healthy, most of all, stay profitable. Keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise. We'll talk at you same time, same place next week. God bless you and good night.
Catch you on the flip flop. Be safe.